For the past 7 years, John has been on a mission to empower European enterprises and organizations with AI. Galvia has brought AI innovation to industry leaders like Nestle, Medtronic, Entity Data Business, as well as many Europe's top-ranking universities, including Cambridge University, Wageningen University and Research, and the University of Galway. John is also a member of National Forum that advises the Irish government on its AI strategy. And he also provides advice and support to agencies in South Pacific Islands of Samoa and Vanuatu, where he once worked and lived on how to preserve indigenous languages in this new AI era. John will tell us about how to navigate the evolving AI landscape. How about the risks? What about the costs of it? AI Unleashed, navigating tools, trends, and business success. John Clancy. Welcome, John.
Hello. Hi, everybody. My name is John. Thanks for the introduction, Tomas. It's great to be here. I'm Irish. Galvia is an AI company that I set up with my co-founder back in 2017. We're based on the west coast of Ireland, although it is an AI hub and there are a lot of AI startups where we're based. Today I'm going to talk about AI at a kind of more of a higher level, what we feel in our business is happening in the world of AI at kind of a macro level. There's two sides to any business. You have the people that in your business bake the cakes and people that sell the cakes. I'm on the sell the cake side of the house, although we have been 7 years in this, so I've kind of garnered a bit of knowledge in the space. But to kind of take you back, rather than just jump straight into today and what's happening in AI, back in 2017, myself and my co-founder, my CTO, his background was in conversational AI and NLP, and he had lots of cool stuff that he was showing me at the time. And I said to him, look, is it solving a market problem? And we've kind of kept this ethos throughout the business for the last 7 years, is that AI is great, but it's just another tool, kind of do something at scale that couldn't be previously done in the past. So I literally went onto my LinkedIn connections and reached out to them all and said, hey, this is what I'm doing now. I'm setting up this business. We can automate workflows with some cool conversational AI and NLP techniques. And one of them came back. They were a company in Switzerland called Nestle, and they became our first client. Now, it did take us about 18 months to get them as a client, but we very simply looked at existing systems within organizations, typically in the HR department, that can be clunky. You know, the SAP module for HR or the ServiceNow, and we put an in-portal conversational experience, which basically meant if somebody wanted to book their holidays, wanted to book paternity leave, maternity leave, instead of having to go in, fill out a form, send it to HR, wait for it to be approved and come back, which was taking about 5 days, we just automated the workflow because we know it's you. You've signed in the morning. It would appear on Microsoft Teams or as an in-portal experience. And we would fill out the form. You just had to digitally sign it, send it to HR if you were approved, and send it back. And we grew from there. And on that journey, we realized that doing business with very large scale enterprises is fantastic. But as a startup, you know, you have to generate revenue. You know, we're lucky we have shareholders in the business, but you have to start generating revenue. So over the few years, we started focusing more on medium-sized companies, and that's where we are today, is that our business, we believe, every business is unique. You've got unique customers, you've got unique employees, unique systems, unique data. Your AI should be unique as well. At Galvia, we give our clients, it's an AI delivery platform that gives our clients everything they need to harness the power of AI in weeks. Not years, which is typical when it comes to deployments in the enterprise world. So, when it comes to today, where do we start? Like the question I get asked, whether it's we do work in the public sector, we do work in the private sector, big companies, medium-sized companies, it's the same. Where do I start? I feel like I'm missing the boat. And like I always say, imagine you had access to 1,000 interns in your company today. They are very keen, they're very eager, but they're not that experienced. What work would you put them at right now to make your life easier? And that's where you should start when it comes to AI. Start there. You know, there's been a massive shift from all the talks we heard earlier. There's been a huge paradigm shift. You know, instead of coding, we're now showing. Instead of telling the computer what to do through code, we just show examples. We show things at a computer, and it either does it on its own or it does it through instruction, comes up with an answer. But we like to call this the jagged frontier of AI. Now, what I mean by the jagged frontier is there's some things that LLMs are really good at, large language models, and there's some things that they are not good at, and that humans are better at. And I'd like to start there because LLMs are not good at brand new problems. So if it's a net new problem that an LLM has not seen before, it's not really good at handling it because it hasn't been trained on it. It finds it very, very difficult. It's not very good at synthesizing information, intuition, piecing together what happened in the past with what's facing me now. And it's certainly not very good at, and humans are much, much better at, opinions. And people that have opinions will succeed in the future because Gen AI's whole purpose is to pattern match what it thinks you want to get next. It'll pattern match the words that you're putting in. So it does not have opinions. And opinions are going to count. Those soft skills are really, really going to matter in the future. However, if your business challenges are relating to information query, search, information retrieval, summarization at scale, it's amazing at that. If you're in the space of either marketing, HR, legal, generative AI is amazing at doing these features, and it's amazing at doing it at scale. Or if you're in other industries like retail, manufacturing, IT services with data that's more structured, more, let's say, ones and zeros, then typically we would say that machine learning is your friend. You know, to put some kind of maybe color around this, we have a global IT services company that would be one of our largest clients, and like their challenge wasn't an AI challenge. Their challenge at the start, we thought we would bring in some AI to make them more efficient. But we quickly found out that their challenge was they had hundreds of systems underpinning their business, all data sitting across each of these silos, nothing talking to one another. And trying to get one view about what's actually happening in the business when you're managing 18 to 20,000 simultaneous product deliveries or client delivery projects around the world becomes very tricky, and it involves lots of people. But this is a really good example of what AI and machine learning in particular loves. It loves dates, it loves times, it loves figures, a start, a finish, software, hardware, it'll eat it up. So we built an ensemble of machine learning models on our platform for entity data that are able to predict 3 months out and 6 months out with over 90% accuracy what's going to happen with projects before they deviate from margin, before they fail in their business. So instead of them focusing on putting out fires, they're actually able to focus on customers. They're able to focus on more value creation in their business. And this is why we look at, or I look at machine learning is like, if you think of generative AI is like a lake. It's vast, but it's quite shallow. Whereas machine learning can be very, very narrow, but it can also be very, very deep and generate amazing results. But I think one thing is clear, and it came out in some of the earlier presentations, is that one size AI does not fit all. And that's the main reason. This is a quote, not from me, this is a quote from Cassie Kozyrkov. If you don't follow her on Twitter or on Instagram or TikTok, I'd highly recommend you do. She's the former chief decision scientist with Google. But garbage does not turn into gold, and this is a lot of people's expectation. No matter how much math you throw at it, AI, machine learning, it is all maths at the end of the day, but data is generated by us. We are typically not good at dotting the I's or crossing the T's. And it becomes a real, real challenge. And in order for any company to take advantage of the new, exciting, and wonderful advances there've been in AI, you need to have your data into shape so that machine learning can run some amazing predictions over your data. And the main reason why this is such a challenge when it comes is because of legacy systems. Again, whether you are a small company or a large company, it's just about scale. And a lot of companies have AI now. Every company seems to be putting AI onto the end of their, their brand name. You might have a finance tool running the finance side of your business. It'll have a bit of AI in it. You'll have, AI maybe sitting within the Microsoft suite. But you won't just have these. You'll have several. You could have 100 apps running your business. And this is the challenge for AI. How do I leverage my existing investment in all these systems and get a connected intelligence across my business? And that's what we do at Galvia. But this is not easy. This is a journey for any business, and it needs to be on both sides. Like, you need a lot of collaboration, you need a willing team, you need a big problem, but it has to be built around compelling use cases. And typically you'll find that data is stored in silos, it's sequestered, it's sitting on its own. It can be very messy, whether it's structured and or unstructured. They just don't, the systems do not talk to each other. So getting your data into shape so that AI can deliver growth with this connected intelligence is essential for growth in your business. But the challenge for AI is that AI has to fit into today's world. At the one end, all the new IPO companies, especially in the last 6 months, a lot of their IPO filings, you'll see AI everywhere. They're all talking, we have AI capability here and there. But yet, when the incumbents, the likes of Salesforce, Netflix, they're stating future profit warnings with the SEC filings. Why are they flagging? Why are they so concerned? They're concerned because at present, AI has to fit into our world. In the short term, AI will be the system. It will be no need for these large-scale, new disruptors in their space won't have these systems that will slow them down, these clunky old systems that have ran businesses for the last 40 or 50 years. And that's why I believe, and I'll talk a little bit about Apple later, but I think Oracle have gotten it right in this space. If we look at the LLM space, where you have, there's a clear winner at the moment with OpenAI. I mean, they're 20 times bigger than anybody else, but you have Cohere, Gemini, Llama. There's lots of LLM players in the generative AI space. And all of them are being driven by the Magnificent Seven, the big tech companies. Whether that is good or bad is your own opinion. But Oracle have taken a different approach. They're being agnostic to what we would call the retail side of LLMs and the retail side of generative AI. What Oracle have decided to do is take a step back, and they'll be the wholesaler. We'll be the honest broker in the room. We are amazing at fixing your data. Do that with us, and then choose whomever you want in that space. They've let the LLM battle for supremacy play out in the fields, but at a retail level, and they're sitting back at a wholesale level and garnering new business on the back of this. And it's very interesting to see how that does actually play out in the next couple of years. So another thing, this slide before, I used to call this slide cost, but my marketing department said, don't put cost up on a slide because nobody likes to think about cost, so we're calling it impact. And what I mean here is that with any new technology, whether it is generative AI, machine learning, or any type of technology, there is a cost. And it will be a cost to your business that you need to be conscious of. There's a people cost. Any type of change, no company I've ever gone to has welcomed change with open arms. Nobody likes change. So there has to be a strategy and a plan and a journey, because they need to, I know I keep going back to journey, but you have to bring people on a journey. And if people don't want to accept it in a company, you're going to have difficulty from the start. Then there's the financial, the compute cost. Gen AI is immensely expensive to run. you have to know what you're doing. You can very quickly run into the tens of thousands a month running instances of ChatGPT within your company, depending on how large you are. You know, you have to be very, very aware of this, and I'll touch on this in a few minutes. And there's also the environmental cost. You know, we're talking about in the time where we are consuming a lot of energy as it is, generative AI is consuming vast amounts of energy. You know, one prompt on ChatGPT can power a 40 kilowatt light bulb for 1 hour. You know, if Google turned its search engine into ChatGPT, Google gets about 9 billion searches a day on its little window portal. If they turned it into ChatGPT, they would consume the same power that my country, Ireland, consumes in a day, every day. That's how much it would take to power that technology. 5% of all energy next year in the US is going to be consumed by large language models. You know, Microsoft is now in the nuclear power business. I mean, it's hard to actually believe that they are building nuclear power stations. They've started 2 in the States, and they're starting 1 in Europe to power generative AI. Surely we need to stop looking at to come up with ways that are to more efficiently deploy and manage this technology, rather than going to look at other ways to power it through nuclear power, through other sources. We have to start taking this seriously. And you need to have a plan and a strategy and an approach to get this right. There are other ways to manage these deployments in your business. So the one thing I love talking about is the AI race, right? We are in the middle of an AI race. Now, I'm going to take China out of the picture here because it's really hard to know at a granular level what is going on. But if we look at what is actually happening in the world, the States versus Europe, and it's not a versus thing, but the reality is 75% of all large language models are in America. They are the dominant player in that space. Like, there is one serious player here in Europe, which is Mistral, who originally the French government put 200 million in because they're building a large language model. And as Thomas spoke about earlier, they're doing this, it's in French, you know, because every large language model it's in English. And what is going to happen is that there will be a digital death of orphan or minority languages. There are 1,500 of them around the world. And if everything that's being created right now and everything that's being consumed is through English, these languages will be lost. And France, in fairness, the French government did put in 200 million to create and generate a technology innovation in the country. You know, Mistral, who are the golden child of AI when it comes to France, you know, they did an amazing collaboration with NVIDIA last year on their NeMo model to, the larger context windows, extremely powerful, and an amazing collaboration. But in the background, Mistral were raising 600 million euros of funding, which is they're a private company, and good luck to them. But the issue is that US companies, out of the 600 million that they raised, all 6 were American companies: Microsoft, OpenAI, Salesforce, I think it was Blackstone out of Palo Alto, NVIDIA invested 100 million each in Mistral. And the reason is we have no money in Europe. We've got a liquidity problem here. And the US are simply, instead of taking over companies, they're starting to take them over. They're hedging their bets. And look, they're private enterprises, and good luck to them for doing that. But we need to be aware, this is actually what's happening. They are hedging their bets. You know, we as a European, bloc, we need to get more sovereign as Europeans, or else we're going to get more sovereign as countries. You know, we are looking at a large language model's Oscailga, which is in Irish, in Ireland, because the Irish language will definitely die. OpenAI came to the government and said, we will give us all your data, and we will create a large language model for you, Oscailga. But then they begin to lose control of your language. They're not interested in the Irish language and preserving the Irish language. They wouldn't be interested in the Polish language or preserving it. They're interested in the data, the videos, the images, the text, the libraries of information they're going to get to create knowledge that they're going to make a profit on. So we came up with the idea, why don't we do it ourselves, build our own large language model that the state will own. And I think every state needs to look at this and license it. I said, we can license this capability back to OpenAI. If they're that keen about getting it, then license the technology to them. And there are smart ways that you can do that, but control the data. You know, Europe is viewed by investors as overregulated. You know, it's an emerging industry and we're overregulating. You know, I don't necessarily agree with that, but like the investment speaks for itself. You know, last year the total investment in AI in Europe was 11 billion. You know, there's a VC fund in the States, Blackstone. They have created a fund for Gen AI infrastructure for 30 billion, and it's just for infrastructure. And our whole investment in this side of the world was 11 billion. So we either need to, I think it's not just a private equity. It's not this has to be a collaboration between universities, governments, private sector, public sector. We need to think differently about this capability. Countries need to, instead of just having, you know, I can speak to Ireland, we have an AI ambassador, we have an AI council, we have lots of government bodies on it. That's a tick-the-box exercise. Like, we need to have an AI campus, an AI that feeds private industry, public industry, that's wider, that's collaborating with other countries in Europe, because it is a nation's responsibility here. This is a very, very powerful piece of technology that's at our fingertips, but we just need to look at it, I believe, a little bit differently. And the AI Act, you know, it is how much power the AI Act has, you know, I think time will tell. In Ireland, we have a lot of, you know, we have very attractive tax laws for a lot of these large tech companies. So we have dished out under GDPR, European regulation, more fines than all other countries put together. I think it was 3.6 billion of fines across Europe went out last year, and Ireland issued 2.6 billion of those GDPR breach fines, because most of them are based in Ireland, or they're headquartered out of Ireland for tax reasons. But the EU Act, I think it'll have teeth, because if you break it as a private company, or if you break it as especially a supplier, like for the likes of my company, if we were in breach of the AI Act, this AI and the delivery of AI is built on trust. And I think if you break that trust, then that social contract you would have with your customers or whoever you're delivering this technology to, you would be in serious trouble. Because I don't know if it has the teeth regarding fines and the level of fines that you can actually deliver. So tomorrow, I love this slide, because I can say absolutely anything, and half the room will disagree with me, half the room will probably agree or not care. But it is moving and evolving incredibly fast. You know, I moved away from, even myself, there's now loads of amazing people you can follow on TikTok, and I really like it. I mean, I went against getting TikTok on my phone because, especially with the kids, I didn't want TikTok on the phone. But there's some amazing content creators, because they're short, they're snappy, and you can get updates about what is, because there's so much going on in this space. But we are still in the Netscape era of AI. You know, this is disruption for the old incumbents, we would call them, of last year. It is coming. You know, I like the phrase, the second mouse gets the cheese, because in particularly, I think, resonates in the world of AI today. If we look at, and I touched on earlier, you know, Tesla, they didn't invent the electric car, you know, General Motors did, but yet they're dominating that space for now. The Coca-Cola didn't invent soda, Dr. Pepper did, yet they dominate that space. I think the biggest players have yet to come, and some players, like Apple, I really believe, have gotten it right. They have kind of taken the Oracle approach. They didn't create LLMs. They didn't get bogged down in the trenches of trying to be the best, the biggest, the fastest in that space. They sat back. You know, they sat back, and they announced, I think it's 2 or 3 months ago now, that they're going to launch Apple Intelligence. They're not launching artificial intelligence in Apple, they realized their core is their business. They're a product company. You know, they have 1 billion people in the world with these. The richest people on the planet are their customers. And they've now chosen OpenAI to power Siri. And apparently they've let them in for free for the first number of months, but you can be guaranteed if they're charging Google 20 billion for Google to be the default search engine on your iPhone when you buy it, they're definitely going to charge a royal handsome amount to OpenAI to have access to all the apps on your phone, and it'll be very interesting to see. But they're treating it a little bit differently. If this room is everybody that has an iPhone in the world, OpenAI is just the wallpaper. That's how they're looking at it, a commodity. They can just rip down that wallpaper, and whomever comes next, whomever is biggest and better, they'll just bring them in. And it's very interesting to see. Current large language models, like OpenAI, Claude, Gemini, all the ones we taught, I think they're definitely going to be ripe for disruption. You're going to see smaller language models evolve. I think it's specific, industry-specific models that are a little bit narrower from a business perspective, that are going to start and develop in marketing, in retail. From a business perspective, you're going to have smaller language models that are more efficiently run, that are faster, that are leaner, that are not taking up as much compute as the larger ones. They're going to be easier to run on a local instance of your data, which is really important because nobody wants to give their data away. You know, we found this out. One of our other clients that I didn't really talk about, not to bore you too much, but we got into the higher education space, again driven by a problem, and it was all around the data. Universities have a huge data problem. They have systems sitting across either on-prem, private cloud, their local cloud. They've got people working there for 30, 40 years that understand the system. And their big challenge is to get that data and those workflows out of their heads and into an AI so they can actually have some governance and within their university. So we started out on a data journey with the university in Ireland during the lockdown, but we soon realized their biggest challenge was how do they engage students when they're not physically in the university? And students had loads of concerns and worries. So we created Cara, which is the Gaeilge or the Irish for friend. It is a non-binary, gender-neutral AI that's on hand 24/7 for students. We consumed all of the data in the university, whether that is where do I fill my water bottle, or down to I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed, and pushed it to Snapchat, pushed it to WhatsApp. So students at 2 o'clock in the morning could text, I am feeling under pressure, I am feeling low, I am feeling worried. In parallel, our AI would react to them, and we use some local instance, Gen AI, for this, to map the existing care pathways that exist within the university. So that data it's never leaving the university, where we do it within their 4 walls, but the student is getting the same experience. But the AI will say, I'm not a real person, I am Cara and I am an AI, but I am listening and I am here, and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. But in parallel, it will send an alert to the physical team. So when they come in the morning, they can say, hey, there's John, and here's the transcript of his call, and somebody needs to call him. And then that journey grew with them, because we were trying to see how further could we go, because now we had a picture of the present about how students were actually engaging with the AI and all the questions they were asking and trying to trick it and test it like everybody does. You know, are you real? Are you God? All the usual stuff. But we were showing the analytics to the university to say, well, here's what's trending. Here's the heartbeat. And by the way, we've plugged into your library system. We've plugged into your learning management system. This particular student, you know, hasn't been in the library in 8 days. Their assignment is overdue. They're talking about financial pressure to the AI in WhatsApp or through SMS. There's a probability of X, because we're a machine learning company and predicting future outcomes. So we used what we had done for entity data in predicting what's going to happen from a financial, legal, and risk perspective to students. And it works really, really well. And if it overworks the way we look at it, well, so what? At least students that would fall between the gaps before, and like 19%, 1 in 5 students will never graduate that go to university across all of Europe. It's up and down in some countries, but on average, 1 in 5 never graduate, and they don't know why. So there is that impact, but there's also the financial impact to universities. But the big challenge for them was around the data, and how do they give access to a company to come in and run this analysis over their data. And that's why it was crucial for us, and I think it's crucial for all systems, that we deploy ours in a simple containerized deployment within your Azure or within your 4 walls, or on-prem, depending on the client, but connect it all together in a safe and secure way that is compliant and will be compliant, especially with the EU Act. And finally, we also believe in the next 12 months, I think there's going to be further commoditization in this space. There's going to be further disruption, especially in Gen AI. You're going to see a huge merger between one of the big players, between the likes of a Salesforce and an OpenAI stroke Microsoft. There's going to be a come together of some big companies if they get through the FDA. But it's definitely commoditization for this technology. And people that are able to understand data, unlock the power of data in a safe and secure way that's compliant with the EU AI Act and is generating either saving your customers money or predicting future outcomes, whether that is safeguarding student success or safeguarding financial success, I think they're going to win. Thanks for your time. Myself and Karina are here for the rest. My head of business development is here with me. And if you want to have any questions outside, I'd be delighted to take them. So thanks, everybody.